welcome to the Omega Republic, a radio podcast program for the furry and brony community. I'm your host, the equine who feels fine, Coppercap. Also joining me today is Tiberius.
Good evening. I haven't given myself any kind of title yet, like you tried to do last time we recorded this, but maybe I'll be good enough to give myself one at some point. I mean, I have recorded stuff at some point. I have recorded stuff before, but maybe I'll be as good as you one day.
And you're good in your own right in what you do. Just be proud of who you are. Thank you for joining us here on Suiting Up for Life, where we seek out those in the furry fandom and get to know what it's like to be a furry and or brony, and what they do to make who they are a part of the community. Today, we have Fatty Dragonite joining us here from the Netherlands. Say hi, Fatty.
Hello, what is up? Thank you guys for having me, man.
Say hi, Fatty.
That was not intended as an insult. That is his name.
Yeah, I guess so, but it's all good. You guys can call me Luke, by the way. Just Luke, the Jedi way.
That does sound like a better name than Fatty.
Yeah. Some
okay.
people call me FD, actually, but yeah, Luke works fine.
That does work too.
Yeah, but yeah, let's go with Luke.
All right, then, Luke.
It is all good.
Before we get started, we'd like to also say our trees are an important part of our ecosystem. With the help of One Tree Planted, they too are helping to keep trees in our forests. For every like this video receives, we of the Omega Republic will donate $1 to the program, max at 100, for the next 30 days after the post of this video. Thank you for watching and choosing the OR as your place of entertainment. Now let's get to know our friend with us today. How long have you been part of the fandom, and what brought you here?
Oh man. For how long? I would say over 6 years right about now. I joined it when I was 13, so that's pretty young. And that was back in 2013. And that's also in January, I think. And that's also when I started drawing. And I think what brought that on is one episode of a Japanese spin-off of a Pokemon show where you have Professor Oak just introducing all kinds of Pokemon. And you had this one episode where he introduced Dragonite. So I saw that on YouTube and I was like kind of mesmerized by it. I have no idea why, but basically I had no drawing skills at that time. So I tried to draw the Dragonite on the picture, basically. And I had so much fun with that. I wanted to do it again and again and again. And I think that's what eventually led me to do art and what's brought me here.
So it definitely was the Dragonite that sparked all of your interests, you might say.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah, I would definitely give Dragonite a lot of credit for that.
Sweet chubby boy.
Absolutely, the chubbiest of cinnamon roll. Thank you, Tiberius.
Although Charizard is pretty chubby as well.
He is, but he's not as good as Dragonite. I'm sorry. There's nothing I can do about it. The word of the snoot is absolute.
He's not much of a cinnamon roll, more like a pretzel.
A pretzel. Sure.
Well, he is a little salty. Oh my.
Oh my god. Okay, yeah. You win.
Your turn, Tiberius.
Alright, suppose we're doing this in turns. Well, the question here says that it asks what you do towards contributing to the fandom, whereas the way I say it is, what is it that you do as part of being in the fandom? What is your main, I'd say role, but probably a better way to say it would be hobby. Your main hobby that you bring into the fandom or put yourself forward as doing.
Yeah, my main hobby, my main shtick. I would say that's a pretty easy one. And that's, for me, that's short films. Especially within YouTube, or the furry community on YouTube, you see a lot of storytime animators and like animation memes, like a bunch of that, and that's good. Like, I enjoy watching that, but personally, I feel like short films and just long animated stories, you can bring a lot of magic with that. So that's what I'm trying to fill that void, and I really hope more people do in the future as well. I hope to inspire more people to do that.
Are there any particular examples that you might have been inspired by in order to start making them?
Well, when I graduated high school back in 2016, I really wanted to go and study animation, but the only college that gave animation classes was really far away, and I didn't have the money to travel back and forth and pay for tuition, and that was a pretty difficult period because like you're at a crossroads, like you don't know what you want to do with your life, basically. So I took a gap year, and I took that to actually study animation on my own, because I knew that at the end of an actual animation major, you would have to make a thesis film. And you see a bunch of those on YouTube, and I was super inspired by those. And I thought by myself, like, I don't need to be an animation student to make my own thesis film. So I'm just going to make a bunch of thesis films, I guess.
Absolutely. Now, your main role it's specifically animation, yeah? Would you say are you any versed in sound design or voice work, anything like that? It's your main skill is animation, or is there anything else that you use to help you produce these short films?
Well, now that you mention it, I would say filmmaking as a whole would be more my shtick, really, because animation is a big part. I would say the biggest part of it. But I also like script writing a lot. I enjoy voice acting. I love recording Foley sound effects and incorporating those into the films itself. I like working with, I don't know what you call it, directing, I guess? Yeah, directing and stuff like that, basically. The whole shebang.
Sorry, the universal art of filmmaking in itself.
Yes, yeah, very much so.
Being a director, it does require some relational skills, talking to people, finding out what their skills are, and getting them to work with other people in tandem so that they can contribute to the project as a whole, which is very important in being a director. But obviously, we should not drag this out. But it's good that you teach yourself such a wide array of skills, because even it's something as simple as just animating, it can be a difficult topic to even start to learn, because I mean, obviously for everyone it'd be difficult to learn, but I feel like, at least for me, animating itself is a long process.
Right, it does require a lot of patience, but I'm very thankful to have people who are willing to voice act for me for the films, and to produce music for them as well. I feel like music is really important to really make a film powerful, right? You can make music synergize with the story itself, and I think that amplifies it that much more. So I can't do it all by myself, and I'm not trying to, but sometimes I am a bit stubborn, and I want to make sure to make it right in my image, basically.
For example, it's like how you say you're able to incorporate the right music and sounds. Your most popular animation being Vending Machine. I mean, you balanced the sounds and the voices and the music very well. It made it a very soft, very warm-hearted video, and it was very pleasing to watch.
Thank you. I think most of that, because again, coming back to the music part, I feel like the soft swing/jazz music really helped to bring that out, kind of create a relaxed atmosphere mixed with the warm colors I used. And I think the main reason that the music turned out so well is that I made the whole film as the sketch phase, basically. I didn't color everything, and it was still very rough. And then I sent that to the composer so that they could compose the music based on the animation itself, instead of vice versa, which is what usually happens.
It turned out really well, and I'm happy that you and the other artists involved were able to just bring this all together into a very, very nice animation.
Thank you very much.
It would be a lot of things to balance in that regard, especially it goes back to working with other people, working with other artists as well, people who are working on the same part of the project.
For sure. There's one animation, I would say an actual film. I'm pretty sure you guys have heard of it. It's called the Has Been Hotel, and that That's basically not a one-man project. There's a bunch of different animators who worked on that. And I think to create something that big and that cool, I think that would be a pretty big goal for me as well. Because I know that I cannot do it alone as much as I wish I could.
That's definitely something I've always wanted to try and be a part of, ever since seeing back in my days when I was part of the Pony fandom. Not so much anymore, but I still have an appreciation for the show. I've always wanted to try and be a part of some very big project in that regard, specifically voice work and singing and Foley work, if that's really necessary. But to be able to lend my voice and see my name in the credits of a big project like that is sort of a dream of mine, and eventually something bigger. But it's definitely something big to look on to, isn't it? It's an astronomical task especially to produce a project like that.
Well, again, it requires a lot of patience, but also a lot of passion. And if you really enjoy voice acting, I can assure you will see your name in credits. Because if I can do it, then you sure as hell can.
It's not something to be disappointed with. I mean, no matter what kind of content you turn out, I mean, it's always something to be proud of to have a completed project, especially if you have more than one person working with it.
Yeah, I'm really proud of the final the final thing. Really, I find myself looking back at it whenever I'm just having a pretty crappy day, and it's a real pick me up.
Seeing something like that would definitely be something to be proud of.
I remember when I got invited to my first ever film festival. The film got selected for it, and it was in the city of Middelburg, which is on the southwest of the Netherlands, basically this little island area. And oh man, to be able to see my film on the big screen, I'm really glad the lights were out because I bawled my eyes out.
That's a big moment. Even to be featured, not to just win an award, but to see the fact that it's good enough to see.
Now, I haven't won an award yet, but even still, like, the memory itself is way more than enough, and I'm so happy I got to experience it.
There's always time.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
Are you a fursuiter? If yes, who made your suit? How long did it take, and will you decide to improve on it? If no, will you seek out a suit maker, and do you have any preferences?
Well, not a lot of people know, but I actually am a fursuiter. My suit was made by a Canadian suit maker, Comic Crazy Studios. Let me see if I can find a couple of pictures. And I commissioned it in, I think, 2 years ago. And that's around the time I was in the queue. And then when it was my turn, it took about a month to be done. And I'm really happy with the service and how it turned out. But I saved up for it for many years.
Oh, that's adorable.
Yeah, thanks. The suit maker is a lot less tall than I am, so it kind of looks like a bit of a marshmallow.
It is. That's a pretty pudgy boy.
For sure. But yeah, that's the whole body can be filled up with polyfill, and it goes up to 6 bags. But I've only been able to suit with 3 bags in it because I would like to live. Thank you very much.
That would be awful to suit in.
It's a lot of fun, actually. It's just it depends from person to person. Like
with 6 bags.
It is. Yeah, it's very heavy, really hot, but it's a ton of fun. About a week ago, I went to a meet called the University, with the fur, and it's this big ass fur meet in a huge ass arcade, and you get to play games and stuff in suit, and it was a ton of fun. Let me see if I can find a couple pictures of that.
Would you decide to improve on it in any other way, or do you think you're satisfied with how it is from now on?
But with the suit?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say I'm very satisfied with it. I mean, I'm not a fursuit maker myself, unfortunately, so I can't really improve on anything myself.
Finding something that you're happy with is one of the, well, it's self-satisfaction more than anything. But there are people who do tend to change their mind a lot. I could kind of be like that a lot.
Yeah, it varies from person to person. But okay, so here's a photo of me using one of the. I think this is some kind of pedaling game, and it kind of speaks for itself.
That's precious.
Yeah, right. I think I have a couple more actually. I'm just looking for these. Thank you guys so much for waiting. Okay, here's one more. This is the last one.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, you put follow me eyes on it. Those are fantastic.
Dude, those are the best. But yeah, it's a ton of fun. Like, I'm really happy with the suit.
Definitely not a summer-friendly outfit.
No.
I don't think any fursuit is summer friendly.
That much is true. That much is true. None of them really are any kind of summer friendly.
When it is fully loaded, have you ever stood on a scale and seen how much it weighs with you and this stuffing inside the suit?
Oh my god. That's a fantastic question. Oh my god. I need to do that. I haven't done it yet, but I will do that next time I get to sue, because it is a hassle putting it on. Like, you gotta put on Under Armour, stuff like that, like a cooling vest, obviously.
You need to have someone take your picture while you're doing that.
Yeah, even though I cannot see the scale, I can guarantee that. I think the stuffing in and of itself would easily add 30 pounds. So yeah, it's wrecking ball mode.
You ever just roll around in it?
That would be funny, but I would need someone to follow me tuba, and the downside is the suit would get dirty.
Yeah, that too. I heard it's kind of difficult to wash a suit.
Yeah, it's a hassle. You kind of have to set aside a whole day for it. But yeah, it's worth it.
The underside of the feet, are there grips underneath, or is it all fur?
The underside of the feet is basically a sole, because they're outdoor feet paws. I'm not sure if you're familiar with those terms. Basically, you got indoor, which is only for basically then you get the real paw pads, but you can't really walk outside with those or they'll get really dirty. And you have the outdoor paws, and that's just a sole. You could just step on that with anything. And since Dragonites don't really have beans or anything like that, I just went with the outdoor paws.
Makes it a lot more accessible.
Yeah, it's I would rather have because you can obviously walk indoors with outdoor paws as well, so I'm going with that.
As far as Dragonites not having beans, I'm sorry to say there are some artists out there who would probably fail to agree with you. We won't go with the details on that.
Yeah, well, it's the furry community. That's always going to be a thing.
Well, there's an animal, there'll be someone to put beans on it.
Yep.
Beans. No, I'll never not get tired of that.
Well, we're going to be diving a little bit deeper with this next question, and it's something along the lines of you yourself as a person and how it affected your choice of fursona. Though, from what I've seen in your case, it may not be as much, but with every person is different. So it goes as that based on your sona or your animal, do you feel that it presents your personality as such, or do you feel like you want to be more like them emotionally or as a person, or is it just kind of hey, this thing is cute, I want to be it?
I love how you added that last part, because that's probably what a lot of people think, right? For me, I would say, because when I first saw Dragonite, right, it's this big lug. He got this big Moto looking chonker with a big snoot, and he's got this friendly demeanor. He's got his arm up, he's waving at you. And I thought, like that guy seems like a really swell fella. So I made my Sona a Dragonite, and there's barely any Dragonites, so you kind of stand out a little more.
Be a really swell fella.
Yeah, swell. But yeah, to come back on your question, I feel like my Sona itself is kind of based on, I guess my personality as well. But of course, I also kind of picked Dragonite because he's just super cute.
I suppose everyone kind of has that reason for picking them in their own way. Some people like dragons, so they'll pick a dragon. Some people like cats, so they'll pick a cat.
Right. I mean, dragons are awesome. Cats, however, no, I'm kidding. I mean, if you really like knocking glasses over on tables, yeah, go with a cat.
Yeah. Well, cats can be assholes sometimes, but they can be very sweet. And, others can decide, others can be really slutty, and so they decide to be a fox, which is the general consensus.
Right.
They have no imagination like our founder. He can be a wolf.
Dude, wolves are cool too, man. You got coyotes, you got jackals, but to me they all kind of translate to big, fluffy-eared furballs, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
Don't speak too well of wolves. He'll hear you.
Oh my god. Yeah, I'm not speaking wolf, am I?
His ego is big enough as it is.
Oh man. Yeah, we'll be fine. We'll be fine.
His ego is big, but his schedule definitely isn't.
Well, if it wasn't, then I think he'd be here right now.
No, different jobs for different people. Right now,
Right.
he's delegated the running of the Republic to myself and Copper day to day. He is a very busy person, but he is a very good leader, and obviously we wouldn't have the Omega Republic if it were not for him, so...
The Alpha Wolf.
Yes, I do.
I love the sigh in front of that. You're like...
Don't tell him you said that.
Why, is this ego that big?
Yes.
The non-genuine way.
Yeah, something tells me you guys think he's kind of a douche.
No.
No.
Okay. He's just a fluffy fella.
It's kind of an ironic ego.
Oh, okay. Like he likes to joke with it, but that's all right.
Well, he's a very unique individual in and of himself.
Anyway, we digress and we move on. Being a furry and or brony, walking among society, do you feel more or less alone than before you became what you are? Has it opened up opportunities towards making friends?
Oh man, that last part definitely. For me, it just the fur meets. At first, they're pretty scary, right? Because all of a sudden you're in this area with furries, basically. But then you realize that most of them, they're kind of like you. You're on this same wavelength, and I feel like that's really cool. The more meets I go to, basically, the more people I get to know. Like, you chill a little more often with friends. A couple of years ago, I didn't do that often. So it's cool when you just meet new people, hang around, make friends, stuff like that. So I'm very grateful that the community has opened up basically doors for me to socialize more, get more out of my shell, more out of my comfort zone. So I definitely feel less alone.
Yeah, because even though you have animations that are very popular, I'm sure that you can agree that there is a difference between friends and fans.
Yeah. For me personally, I feel like that difference is not too far. Like, if you're a fan of mine, you're also a friend of mine. I met this one. Personally, what just makes me explode with happiness is just meeting a person, IRL, who's seen my work. That's just amazing to me. So that they're just instantly my friend when that happens. So I feel like that difference isn't as far as it is to some people.
I see. And that's awesome. I'm glad that you can look on the positive side of things, and it's just amazing how good it can make someone feel. Because it doesn't just make them feel good, be able to talk to you, but it makes you feel good as well. And it just goes to show how well this fandom helps so many people. And that's what's awesome about it.
Word, my man. But yeah, how could it not be awesome, man? I have a lot of passion for animating, and just to kind of see it bear fruit in a way, that's just so awesome. I can't put that into words, how awesome that is. So thank you for letting me relive that memory, Copper.
Well, one of the best ways to ask this next question would be that and this is specifically tailored to yours, in reference to your two most recent videos, that have you felt in any way that incorporating, it says quote unquote roundness, but the theme of I suppose roundness would be the best way to put it, into the actors and subjects, that it limits the amount of viewers that you might get, or to an extent that it might kind of put you in a bad spotlight, and that it might change how people see you, really. Because Cryer, and he was supposed to be the one who was going to answer this question, but I do see where it's coming from, that he himself, and he's told me this before, that he he's kind of felt stigmatized from it, and you've obviously seen his Sona, or you might have. He kind of puts himself in the same portrayal, which is why he's quite a fan of yours. And he was kind of curious as whether you might have the same issues as he was, that he'd be scared of being a part of the stigma and being kind of ousted as an outlier within the fandom, or really within the public in general.
That's a very interesting question. I would have to thank Career for that one. I'm really glad I get to answer this live. I feel like when you're really into something, right? Because for me, it's like the kind of heftier body types, I would say. I would say you're automatically a little more insecure about it. For me, when I first started animating, I was pretty scared of course, what people's perception was going to be, because my earlier videos they don't really make it subtle, so to say. Like with vending machine, it's a lot more subtle, and that's the direction I want to go in. But at this point, since I've actually put myself out in the spotlight, right? People know what I'm into. I'm not going to hold it back. I feel like I've become a lot less scared of that. And for me, I feel like it's fun to just put different types of body shapes into films, because you often see the same kind of body shapes, and yeah, I want to try and make that a little bit different.
Yeah, exploring body shapes and differencing, or varying the type of bodies and shapes and sizes and colors and everything else in animation is what makes it stand out and within other forms of media, which is it's the ability to be able to create those different shapes and sizes. For sure. I will say that of course it is kind of a niche thing, like not a lot of people are into it, and lots of furries, they have that kind of thing, right? They're into something, and I feel like it's not necessary to suppress that. I feel like furry needs to stay weird, so to say, and unmarketable. For me, I feel like that's what kind of identifies a lot of the community. I'm not sure if that makes sense, but...
Oh, yes.
I think it is important to have that kind of... I do see what you mean by the words make it weird, but give it that exotic. I wouldn't use the word exotic, that kind of...
Yeah, well, not really super weird, of course. I'm going to keep it PG. I've never drawn anything that's not PG. And of course, I want to go more into the direction of making it a little more subtle, just...
Don't make it fetishistic.
Yeah, basically. But I will not just abandon my roots, so to speak, and just make all the characters in my future films just sticks, basically. That's not going to happen.
Yeah, it's a part of who you are, not something you're really into. That's the core difference.
Yeah, in a way. And to bring up a completely different subject, I mentioned unmarketable. I feel like what makes the community very special is that it's completely free from commercialization and corporations, basically. And the reason for that is because furries have a reputation of just being fucking weirdos.
Absolutely.
And I feel like that's one of its biggest strengths, because if furry becomes a trend, I wouldn't say Pokemon Go, but like a trend, it will die for me personally.
It's to be seen, I suppose.
Yeah, maybe maybe I'm thinking way too much. This is, of course, just my subjective opinion.
No, you in a way, you're right. I mean, in a way, I kind of think about, and this is kind of getting off topic a little bit, but when you think about the Brony fandom, when Lauren Faust left, a lot of people were upset by that. And then one by one, all the original writers began to leave, and it seemed like more and more you started seeing, these toys that were, and then it started feeling more like a marketing show rather than a a morals or a family show. So, I mean, it doesn't exactly fit in, quite with what you're saying, but I mean, I can kind of see where you're coming from when you say that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's very interesting that you bring the brony community into that, because that is something that's kind of, I wouldn't say controlled by corporations, but it's definitely right there, because it's based on a cartoon show, right? And a really good one at that. A cartoon show can't really go on forever.
No. In fact, the finale was just a couple weeks ago.
Damn, was it? Man, I need to see that.
I'm finding a new decent way to come up with it. Another way to see it. Anyway.
Since it's based on that, I feel like it's not really sustainable, because the furry community drives its energy from itself. Basically, it's kind of like a hamster wheel powering its own thing.
It's sort of its own medium. It's a medium based off of an art style, a perpetual art style, rather than a singular piece of media.
Yeah.
Well, I'd say art style. It's its own theme entirely. It's its own feature.
Yeah, kind of like that. It's also just the community, right? Because you got lots of like-minded people. Like you don't really see Valley Girl, anyone like that at furry cons. It's mostly just dorks like me.
Yeah, and it is more of a community than it is a focus on it. Yeah, obviously the furry fandom has the theme of anthropomorphism as its core, but its main feature is that it's a group. Well, not even a group. It's a community. That's what it is. It's something that a large group of people, a very, very large group of people in the I'd say over 1 million at least.
Damn, 1 million.
Well, well, there's no way of knowing the numbers, to be honest. But you can see where I'm coming from. Is that it's not tied to a singular piece of media, like I said. It's just a kind of widely based idea.
Yeah.
That people flock to and create their own iterations and their own different nuances of life around, really, because being a furry isn't just about art. It's not just about music. It's a lot of things at once. It's fursuiting. It's life. It's making friends. It's making food sometimes. Dragon cakes and all that. I suppose. It's not just one thing. It's not just a show. It's a lot of things. It's a lifestyle to a certain extent, because you can't be furry all day.
Right, wearing a fursuit all day. No, I'm kidding.
Awful.
Yeah, that would be awful. Damn. Oh man. But yeah, we got really into that. Man, I feel like my mind just run a marathon.
Something to think about.
Yeah, definitely. I was not prepared for that question.
During your day-to-day, since becoming part of the fandom, what are some things that you started doing differently in your life?
Man, I'm going to have to look back and just compare. I think for me is working more on, I guess, the social aspect of my life, basically. Just trying to get getting more out of my shell, because that's kind of what Vending Machine is about, right? You barely see any films about social anxiety or anything like that, because even though lots of people struggle with it, and I'm seeing the community as also an opportunity to just try and beat that, or try and get it under control. For me, like my routine, every other day in the morning, I lift weights. Besides that, I'm just trying to look at other people's art, try and learn from it, maybe do a couple studies. That in and of itself helps a lot with improving my art and animation skills. And yeah, I think that's it.
It's a very simple one, but it's a very one. People have different ways in the life they live after joining the fandom. Some people it's a very big change, and some people it's just as simple as looking at different things when they're alone. Well, looking at different things when I'm alone. Spend their time how they spend their free time and the people they talk to. But like I said, it affects different people in different ways.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, for me, I just like to have a solid routine. And right, I wake up, make breakfast, maybe lift a couple weights, do some doodles in a sketchbook, take it easy, maybe go for a walk, some shopping if I'm not at school, that is. So yeah.
it's not really so much that you've changed your life, but your life has changed around you, you would say?
Ooh, I'm trying to think of how exactly to do that. I feel like I am in charge of the changes that I do make. It's mostly that just the encouragement from the people I talk to in the community has contributed to me being motivated to make those changes.
I can accept that. I like that.
Oh, we'll have to make changes at some point.
But I'm trying to make them positive changes, right? Obviously.
Oh, what do we got going on here?
All right, shall we move on?
I did the last question. You can do this one if you want to.
I'll do it. Fuck it, I'll do it. I'll do it.
Oh my god. Go ahead, I'm ready, man.
We can leave that in. So, this is a question that we normally ask everyone that's been on the show, and I've done it a few times. That would be... well, I actually have my own question to ask once we still have time. Is that... if you were to meet someone who was looking into or was interested into joining the fandom, and they themselves weren't sure where to start, on what platform to start in, how exactly would you personally introduce them, or what kind of advice would you give in order for them to insert themselves into the fandom?
All right. The grand finale question. Yeah, I think what I would do is I would tell them that if you have passion in what you do and you like what you do, and you put that before followers or money or anything like that, the rest will come by itself, basically. Because I make films mainly for me. Because even if they get 0 views, I will be happy, and it would be worth it. And that's also why I don't have ads on my videos or a Patreon or anything like that. Because I want to make the films mainly for me.
It's good that you make it your own goal. And of course it goes back down to everyone has their own ways and their own reasons for doing things. That can be kind of boiled down to anything in life, really. People are different. But there are some people that you hear that, oh, I want to do it for money, and that's perfectly reasonable.
Absolutely, yes.
Because obviously, if you like doing something, you should never do it for free. You know, that the age-old thing that Joker once said.
Yeah.
It holds up. It's true. If there's something that you enjoy doing, or there's something that you have a talent of doing, then there's no reason for you to not get paid for it. And people, there's this stigma of that, oh, if you want to do YouTube to get paid for it, or if you want to be a streamer just for the money, then you're scum. There's nothing wrong with wanting to do something and making money from it, especially if you enjoy doing it. The difference is whether you maintain your integrity whilst you have that as your employment, and whether you do a good job of doing it in the first place. Because if you're not doing a good enough job to make money off of it, then what kind of job are you doing?
Right, and I definitely agree that integrity is completely separate from your end goal. I think like a couple days ago, I bought Cuphead. Like it's a pretty hard game. Like it's got such a fantastic animation style, right?
Oh gosh, that game.
I can see the passion in it, and I think that's just really what I missed in lots of games and films and media, basically. Like the super hard rubber hose animation game.
Sorry, I didn't hear.
It's all good.
It's a bit of a strange thing. I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with Cuphead, with that.
Yeah, it's brutal.
No, not in that way. I haven't played it, and it's not really like my type of thing. You know, like after playing Dark Souls for thousands and thousands of hours, well, thousands, hundreds, and getting actually tired of it, just hard games aren't for me. But in terms of the animation and the visuals and the music and basically the production in order to make it genuine, it's second to none in terms of visuals. It's probably the single best animated, produced, written as well, drawn game I've seen in my life, and that is without a doubt the actual truth.
Right, and I do not doubt that one bit. But to come back on the, I guess the money thing, is that I'm fortunate enough to, because I still live with my parents, right? I'm fortunate enough to not have bills to pay, and some people do, and they need a way to do that. So they, doing that is very valid. And also, if you just want to save up for like a hotshot big car or something like that, is completely valid. But that's just not really in the cards for me personally.
That's absolutely fine. There's no reason for you to change. There's no reason for why you should have to change while you pursue something.
Right. And then again, that's just my way of doing things, and everybody has their own way, and that is all completely fine. So yeah, that would be my advice.
That's good. I think that's good. There is. Now, we have kind of exhausted our questions, but like I said, there is one more that I did want to mention, and that is, if there was someone who had admired through admiration of your work or someone else, and was coming for you to advise that they wanted to start in animation or production or anything else, what would be the key piece of advice that you could give them in order to start on that path of production, really?
Oh man, I will say that whenever someone does come up to me and they say that they're inspired to pursue animation, I just explode into like a zenith of absolute perfection, because that is, oh man, that's amazing. But yeah, my advice for that would be, what personally got me on the rails in terms of animation. There's one book, I have it right here. Almost every animator has this book. It's called The Animator Survival Kit by Richard Williams, who unfortunately passed away 2 months ago. If you can Google it, it's this big ass book. It's got tons of pictures, right? Less words, more pictures, and it's got a bunch of just tips and tricks, and the animation principles are all there. Just browsing through this makes me want to pick up my pen and just start animating. So I would very much recommend this book.
Any source material is good.
Yeah, definitely.
Any way that you can transfer knowledge. Because a lot of people say, just draw. And that's not a bad piece of advice. It's not invalid advice, of course. You can't improve if you don't draw, but cramming.
Right. I guess I can compare it to...
Fuck.
Bless you. Holy shit.
Sorry. If you don't study and get the source material in, you won't learn much either, because if you just draw, you're just drawing. But if you haven't got anything to reference it off of, then you're not making as much progress as you could.
References are always good to use. Like there's, I still use them, of course, because some people say like they're training wheels, but it's just really crucial to just, because even art itself is, you're just referencing real life basically. So you always use references. And I remember when I was young, I looked at old cookbooks with like desserts and stuff, like things you can bake, and just scrolling through that just made me want to bake it all, right? And just it's comparable to what I feel with the animation book, right? Because it's got sneaking walk cycles, it's got different types of walk cycles, character design, stuff like that, and it just makes me want to try and do something like that myself. And I hope it does so for more people. So yeah, that would be my suggestion.
But yeah. I just decided to have a sneezing attack in the middle.
It's all good.
You did have a very good way of describing it, with some sort of permanence to be able to teach from is a very efficient way of teaching yourself, especially if you are just teaching yourself. And nowadays, that's as easy as it will be in the entirety of human history, because we have the internet. Information, especially the information you need, is at the tip of your fingertips. Jesus Christ. It's at the tip of your fingers at the minute.
Yeah, in that aspect, I'm very grateful in the day and age where I can just learn what I want without having to go to college, something like that. Because back in the day, like if you wanted to learn animation, it was going to be hard, man.
Well, I mean, back in the day, if you wanted to learn how to read, you'd have to either be a part of the church or pay an exorbitant amount of money to learn from a scholar. So
I think you're going a little bit back further.
Yeah, I'm talking about the 80s, not the middle.
Things have come a long way.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
I mean, if you're talking the 15th century, then yeah, things have come a long way.
Yeah. We're not in the dark ages anymore, luckily.
You know, the spread of information, things are very easy to access, and honestly, I think before, well, up around the 90s, I'd say, is when things really started to pick up, and that it would vary, but you know what I mean.
Right. But yeah, that's it.
Very insightful.
I hope it was. English is
It
not
does.
my first language, so I'm trying to make it sound as cohesive as possible.
Well, it definitely sounds like it is. You could have fooled me.
Thanks, I appreciate that.
I mean, at least you didn't start off, the conversation talking in Welsh or something like that.
Well,
Are you guys from Wales?
no, I don't know where that came from. I would assume you would say Dutch,
Yeah.
considering, but sure, well,
Yeah,
I was trying to be random. I mean, I could have
Dude,
said,
Wales is sick, man. They got a dragon on their flag. Dude, I'm honored. That's a compliment, Copper.
well, I appreciate that. It was just trying to be random. It didn't quite work out as I intended.
well, we still love you. But I think that might actually do it for the interview. Excuse me. I actually had quite the time. I think I learned a lot more than I thought.
For sure, man. Me too.
Each person has their own story to tell, and that's here in the Omega Republic. That's something we intend on doing for as many people as possible in order to bring them together. I think that's something that's very important and something that's kind of might be missing in this day and age. But obviously, the fandom is a very welcoming place, and I'm sure they'll welcome someone like you. Is about as welcome as I'm sure you already are.
Thank you. Yeah, you guys have been really sweet. Thank you guys so much for having me on, and keep fighting the good fight, man. I'm honored that I could be on your podcast.
Appreciate you coming on here to tell us everything about yourself.
Oh yes, absolutely. It's been a wonderful experience. Just the perfect way to spend a Saturday.
For sure, man. Time goes really fast. I'm probably gonna catch some Z's in a couple minutes because time zones.
Probably like 10 o'clock, yeah?
It's 9 p.m. 9:17, but I'm a very good-natured, very obedient boy, so I just want to keep my sleep schedule on track.
Then you're in the same time zone as me. That's good.
Wait, really?
Yeah, it's well, I am in Europe, in somewhere in Spain.
In Spain? Oh, what?
So you are actually in the same time zone as I. It's 9:15 right about now.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we're in the same time zone, but Spain, I didn't expect that.
It's time zones kind of go all the way up. It's not just a particular part of the country. If you looked at the map, it's like a whole vertical part. And I think I would assume the Netherlands is kind of in that same group.
Yeah, kinda. Time zones are weird, though. I'm not really too versed in that.
Do you get any decent? Because I heard in Scandinavia, like they get like 3 hours of sun.
We get like 6 hours.
Oh my god, that's awful.
I would think like more, like 8.
Well, that's okay.
Yeah, 8 hours easily.
Like in the winter, like the dead of winter.
Like the dead of winter, like 7 hours. It's still like enough, but you gotta have some vitamin D supplements on hand.
Is it? I'm assuming snow is also a big factor too.
Man, it hasn't snowed here in so long, like years. It's pretty worrying, actually.
So it's kind of like a wet cold.
Yeah, wet cold. It does snow periodically, but then the ground floor isn't like cold enough to make the snow stay, so it just melts and it's just a drabby mess.
What kind of general temperature do you get?
Let's see what the temperature is right now. And I'm very glad you guys use Celsius, because then I don't have to convert it. It's 7 degrees Celsius.
It's like probably around 20 degrees Fahrenheit.
45, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Google.
Why can't we all just use the same system, right?
Yeah.
Oh, America is very strange. I don't know why you don't use Fahrenheit, Celsius.
Yeah. Or why you call a Royale with cheese a quarter pounder.
Literally everyone uses metric, and America is the only place that people use metric.
I was a bit surprised, yeah, that you mentioned pounds earlier instead of kilos.
Yeah, I guess it's just ingrained in me that whenever I'm talking English, I just have to use the pounds.
We have to change our entire language because
Right. I'm just so corrupted by American metric system. Or the imperial system, rather.
Yeah, because you have to accommodate America. We can't accommodate you. You gotta make it easy for us because we're the ones that matter here, right? Right.
America. So how many ounces of water have you drank? How many pints? How many quarts?
How many centimeters?
Dude, wow. I've drunk 5 centimeters of water.
Well, we'll go ahead and wrap this up. Well, that was our wonderful friend Luke, Mr. Fatty Dragonite. We thank them and for you for joining us here on Suiting Up for Life. We hope to see you here next time, here on the Omega Republic.
Man, I love dark chocolate.